For a man who's listening, who loves Jesus, but feels ashamed of his anxiety, depression, scared to open up and be vulnerable, what would you say to him right now?
There is no need for shame. Shame is not the best word to use. We all go through struggles and we all go through pains. And depending on where we are, either in our faith journey or in our life journey and everything, we all respond to it differently. I think the one that is most remarkable or most defining for me was the loss of my mother when I was aged 7 years old. Then I was in elementary school. And then shortly after that, 6 years later, I lost my father at the age of 13. That really showed the effect of losing both of them. I remember one of the first things I said after I was told, why would they give birth to us if they will not stay and take care of us? It's not weakness to call for help, which I think most men might struggle with, because at times we just feel we are men, we should be able to handle things and we don't need to call for so much of help. No matter what life has thrown at you, and no matter how discouraged or disgruntled or how difficult life is for you, every life has a purpose.
Welcome to the Valiant Forge podcast, where we help men overcome life's battles, show up better in the world, and become a valiant warrior for God. This is a place where we share practical strategies that will equip you on life's journey to help you become the man God has called you to be. Are you ready to overcome your doubt and fulfill your purpose just like Gideon? If so, let's go.
Wale, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you so much. I appreciate coming here, Mark. Thanks for having me.
You're going to be the first person that I've had on that has a strong accent.
Okay.
I have a few different dialects, but your accent is the strongest one so far. So
okay. Hopefully people will get to enjoy it and I appreciate it.
For sure. Yeah. So you're from Nigeria?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
What brought you to America?
So I came into the US in 2014, primarily for my PhD in epidemiology and also to do my residency in psychiatry. So I left Nigeria. I was a medical doctor before leaving Nigeria. So I left Nigeria with those two aims in mind, finish your PhD and then get into complete residency in psychiatry to be a psychiatrist. And I'm happy that both goals have been achieved. And currently I serve as a psychiatrist right here in the United States.
Wow. So you deal a lot with mental health?
Yes, I do. And, for me, mental health means a lot because personally, I've been through a lot growing up in Nigeria. And I feel psychiatry is the subspecialty of medicine that gives me that human touch the most for me. Yeah. I've walked the walk and I've been through very difficult situations to be where I am. And it's easier. It makes it easy for me to appreciate a little bit. Of course, I can't fully appreciate what anybody is going through, but just appreciate a little bit of it that people are going through a lot. In their lives. Yeah.
From what I've seen, it's more my generation and maybe the generation before me. We kind of avoid mental health especially men, because we're supposed to figure it all out. Mm-hmm. But as I'm seeing as time is going on, I think we're getting better about being vulnerable and being open to discussing our problems with a mental health professional. What is your experience with that?
Yes, and that's very, very true. There's a lot of stigma with mental health. And generally, I think in most parts of the world, there's an unwritten rule, or maybe written in some cultures that, for example, like you've mentioned, males are not supposed to show emotions as much, or be open to discuss their emotions a lot, which is part of things we deal with a lot in mental health. So my experience is, people are beginning, to reduce the stigma generally, I believe, all over the world, especially there's a lot of education around that, mental health is real and there are solutions, there are therapies like talk therapies that can help. And there are medications too that can help. And, I always say it's tripod, like medication, therapy. And the third one is lifestyle. There are some things we can also do on our own to assist and to help our mental health. So mental health is not discussed in isolation. It's connected to every other area of our lives. It's connected to our physical health, some. It's connected, to our mind, some. And it's also connected even with our spiritual life, I believe.
Right.
So at the end of the day, mental health is something very important that we all need to pay attention to. And because of the interconnectedness of every area of our lives, one area affects the other. For example, if we exercise and eat healthy, one way or the other, it affects your physical health. And then in turn can also affect your mental health. When you are physically healthy, it helps your mental health to be better too.
Yep.
If we are struggling physically, of course, it could also impact on mental health. A good number of disorders in mental health could be secondary to physical disorders too, could be secondary to the use of substances and stuff like that. So those are all things we need to know. So mental health is not really in isolation completely, but it's intertwined with other areas of our lives.
Yeah. So I didn't know a lot of this kind of stuff. I kind of figured it out throughout my journey. So when I was 48, my youngest daughter moved out, and it was just me and my wife. We were empty nesters now. This was 10 years ago.
Wow.
And I had, my purpose throughout my life as my kids were growing up was to raise them in the way of the Lord, that they would grow up to be good citizens and all that. And I feel like I accomplished that because they're good citizens now and they both serve the Lord. But
congratulations on that.
Thank you.
That's a lot.
Well,
yeah.
Once they were out, I didn't know what to do next with my life. And I had a few months where I just got depressed and apathetic. And I didn't know I had gained a lot of weight over the time and mild heart attack 6 months prior to my 48th birthday. On my 48th birthday, I asked God, I'm like, why aren't I happy? What is wrong with me? I have a great life. I have 2 beautiful daughters now who are out on their own. I have a beautiful wife, great job. Why? What is wrong with me? And I didn't hear anything, but when I was driving to work that day, I passed the gym and I felt like something told me it's time for you to start getting back in shape. So I joined the gym.
Wow.
I'm not going to go too far into my story because it's been told many times on my podcast.
Yeah.
But when I joined this gym, I started getting back into shape.
Okay.
I started
great.
changing how I felt about myself, my mood, everything changed. So, you're talking about how the physical and the spiritual are all connected. I talk about that a lot on here.
Yes.
Mind, body, and soul. It's all interconnected.
And I like your story.
Yeah, go ahead.
I like your story. Sorry for cutting you short. I'm just excited with the story you just told. It's something that I always tell people, like, this connection is real. And people need to understand that. And I'm glad this is something you share a lot here, that everything is connected, together one way or the other. One of the things we tell patients all the time who struggle with depression is, for example, physical exercise is something that can help put you back. It can help your mental health, every day. So if you do have some level of routine, that keeps you moving, it's very helpful for your mental health too. Some of these things have biologic basis too. that no matter what we do, they will still come out in some people, but we can mitigate, we can reduce how serious they will be, and we can prevent in some situations and in some cases. See yours, for example, now you just shared, going to the gym was very, very helpful. It's something that can be helpful. One of the things I shared in my book is, personally, I do like every other day, I have a number of push-ups I do when I wake up. Every other day, I have a number of plank seconds. I do plank every day, and I make sure I have 10,000 steps every day. Whether it's, some people said it's a hoax, that it really doesn't matter much, but whether it matters or not, it keeps me moving.
Right.
I make sure I do 10,000 steps every day, and I have no regret. I've been doing it for years, and it's very, very helpful. I'm just on the move, and it's so hard to like wake up and not have anything I want to do. I wake up energetic, have my morning routine, just like you also share your morning routine. All of that could one way or the other directly or indirectly influence our mental health too. So it's something we need to say. We can say again and again.
Yeah.
Thanks for sharing that.
Yeah. Before we get too far in the weeds on the mental health, you mentioned earlier, like you identify with it because you have a story behind it. So tell us a little bit about your story.
So for me, the big part of my story is, there are many stories, but I think the one that is most remarkable or most defining for me was the loss of my mother when I was aged 7 years old. Then I was in elementary school. And then shortly after that, 6 years later, I lost my father at the age of 13. I call it defining because I don't know, it was just, that's what it was. It really defined, every part of my life was affected by those two events. The first one, not as much because, or maybe I just didn't even know how much effect the loss of my mother had. But then I was a little bit too young. And the fact that my father was still present, was loving, was caring, didn't really make us feel the absence so much because he was there. But when he died, when I was 13, that really showed the effect of losing both of them. I remember one of the first things I said after I was told, why would they give birth to us if they will not stay and take care of us? So life became rough, hard, difficult. But, it's been a while now. I can say I've looked back, and the reason I wrote this book, Adapt and Advance, is because I just realized that is the summary of everything that I've been through that has helped me to navigate those difficult situations and those difficult circumstances. Adapt to me means, accepting a difficult situation without letting it destroy us. And that was what I had to do. I had to face life and I'm going to accept the reality of the difficulties I'm into right now, but I will not let this define me. I had to make that decision very, very early. I don't want to get to the end of my life and all that I have to say is because I lost my parents early. My life got messed up completely, and I couldn't move forward. There was a lot of opportunities to mess it up completely, but I am so grateful to God that I didn't choose that route at all. There was a lot of opportunities that presented to me. There was a lot of, tempting situations that I felt I will have, felt I had reasons, to go that route because of the difficulties I was going through. But I'm grateful to God. Every time I look at it, I keep being grateful to God for just guiding me through and helping me, to overcome those. But I had to decide I will not let it define me negatively. I'm going to pursue my life to the maximum ability that God has placed inside of me and pursue my potential to the best of my life possible. And I'm grateful to God I've been able to do that since then till now and every day. There's been a lot of other defining things that has happened, but I'm grateful to God that I've been able to move it forward at that time. So those are the big ones for me. Exposed me to a lot of adverse childhood experiences, meaning a lot of things which I did it should not have happened to me if I did not lose my parents, but they happened, but God saw me through. So I think
Yeah.
that's my own big story. And so when people tell me their story now as a psychiatrist, I can relate a little bit because of those big trauma that I went through too.
Yeah. So what was your faith like when your mom passed away first, and then what, how did
So,
it change, and did you struggle with it after you lost your father?
oh, yes. For me, faith is defining. And that's why this very first book, I'm like, I struggled with, should I make it faith based or I should just write it neutrally? I struggled, but I just feel if I don't write it as faith based, I will not do good justice to my life because truly, 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 for me, faith was also very, very helpful. So I was born into a Christian family. My mom was a nurse. My dad was a pharmacist in Nigeria. And they were both committed Christians in a Baptist church that we were attending then.
Hmm.
At the time of my mom, both of their deaths in Kontangora, Niger State in Nigeria. So we were committed in church. Even as early as 7 years old when my mom died, I remember on Saturdays I would go to church. I was in Royal Ambassadors where we served other people and, just, socialized with each other and served. So by the point I was in middle school, 11 years old was when I first accepted Christ into my life. So by the time my father died, I had already accepted Jesus. So one way or the other, faith played a big role. So after I lost both of them, I always had God to turn to. Of course, it wasn't easy. I had my own struggles in and out of things that will push me away from the faith, pull myself back, push me away, pull myself back onto the faith. But I would say for me, faith really, really anchored me in God from then until now at every single stage. And like I said, when I look at the fact that I really did not stray away at any time, like completely away from God, I really want to believe maybe part of it is the prayers of my parents or the fact that I just got to know God early. And no matter how far away I wander, something keep pulling me back to God. And I'm really grateful for that because that seems to be the most important thing that kept me grounded, matter, the circumstances that I've ever been through in life.
Yeah, I've always heard that when life happens, what's going to define you next is the decision you make. And I've seen
Yes.
people in your situation who have made the wrong decision. Instead of turning to God, they would just get mad at God and shake their fist up in the sky and blame God. Like, why are you doing this to me? Why are you letting this happen? And you chose to turn to God. And look what your life has become through it because of your faith. Did you have people like after your father passed away that raised you and helped you along?
Definitely, definitely. There's a particular section in my book because I use the framework map lamp. The second M is a mission statement. Then A,
Can
the
you
second
say that
A,
framework again?
map lamp,
Map lamp.
MAPLAMP.
Okay.
M is meaning making, A is action, P is planning, L is learning. Then A is alliance formation, which is what I'm about to talk about now. Then
Okay.
M is mission statement, then P is prayers. So alliance formation under that section and chapters, I shared some of the stories of people that were very helpful. I realized very quickly, like anywhere in the world, some people were good and some people were just not good.
Hmm.
And we just have a mix of them, both in the family, among friends. But, overall, I want to believe that those that really, some really were all out to help. And I'm really, really grateful to God for them because, they made a lot of difference. Some of them wanted to help. They didn't have the means, but you could tell that they were really loving and they really meant well. Some of them, whatever little they had, I had a big uncle then that from my father's side. It was a farm. I didn't have a lot, but from his farm produce, he would always send some things to me. I knew he didn't have a lot of money, he didn't have a lot of things, but he had a good heart, to help. And I also remember the person who I think helped the most was my mom's sister, who was the chief bridesmaid on my mom's wedding. She was really helpful. She left her doors open. Anytime I could always go, to her home, and whatever she could do, she was an high court judge. She tried her best for me. And I also have another uncle, father's side's wife, who was very close to my mother when she was alive. So she had a very soft spot in her heart for me. She was also not rich, but the little she could do, she also kept her door opened. So after I lost my father, I have these three people that I just mentioned. I think, of course, a lot other more here and there that did a little bit of things here and there, but I think these three were the most prominent that I believe I could go into their house at any time and I would feel wanted and I would feel loved. I could feel so they were really there for me. But of course, there were others that were not that loving too. And, there were others that really didn't care about us. And there were others that perhaps cared more for, I would say, the property that my parents left behind than for the kids, which was very painful to me because I felt the kids should take priority over property. But, it's obvious some people don't think that way. So,
Right.
so for some people, they were more interested in a few things that the man left behind. So I had to also decide very early, and I'm grateful to God for that, to separate myself from everything my father left behind. I completely closed my eyes to it. He left a few things here and there, but I just realized I was going to be in a battle with some people if I just give myself some interest in it. So that was one good decision I think was very, very helpful for me very early. Just lived as if he left nothing behind. And that was very, very helpful at the end of the day for me.
Yeah. So I don't know what it's like in Nigeria, but in America, and that's part of the reason I have a podcast for Christian men, and I was one of those men myself. I really didn't start maturing until I was in my late 40s. But in America, men mature late in life. A lot of men, not all of them. You at 13 lost your father. Did you feel like you had to step up and become a man at an early age and figure life out?
Definitely, sure. I had to reason like an adult very quickly. And like I just gave you some examples now. For example, I had to quickly discern where to go or where to go, where not to go. People to be comfortable with, people not to be comfortable with. I cannot freely express my mind, even till now. It's one of the things I still struggle with. I can't say, oh, that car belongs to my father. Why are you using it? And we don't have money to pay school fees, something like that.
Wow.
I had to rationalize a lot of things very quickly in a way to make it easy for me to survive in a difficult terrain. And, I'm grateful that God gave me all of that wisdom. So I had to grow up very quickly. I had to learn very quickly that substance use was not going to be helpful for me. I needed my brain to be at its best. So I had to stay away from alcohol, stay away from smoking, anything. And I'm just grateful to God, that all of those things happened very quickly as a teenager. I had many opportunities to just go that route, but I just realized, I needed to be at my best every single day to achieve the best. Of course, not that I didn't make my own share of mistakes growing up a lot.
Of course.
But I'm grateful to God that in the midst of everything, I was able to put myself together and maybe grow up quickly, get focused on my education, and, just stay away from things that young people do as much as possible. that might not be so helpful. Yeah.
Yeah. The reason I went there is because your story is so inspiring, and I want men to see that they can just make the right decision and step up at any time, and they can change their lives, especially when you're connected to the Holy Spirit, because the Holy Spirit helps you. And I'm assuming, you said you were raised in a Christian home, you already had a Bible based theology behind you. So now, with that being said, because now you're in mental health, and sometimes mental health is a little more science based than faith based, right? So how do you put together the two, faith and science with mental health?
So faith, science, mental health, those are waters I have to navigate every single day. Um, like in mental health as a psychiatrist, like I always tell people, I have the foundation of being a Christian, and most of my principles are based on the fact that I love God and, I want to serve God and I want to serve others. But of course, on my job, I'm not like a pastor, so I'm not paid.
Right.
I'm not paid to talk about the Bible. So typically on a good day, I do really, while most of the foundational things I do are Bible based, of course, when I interact on my job every day, I don't necessarily talk about the Bible or necessarily talk about my faith, except if a patient wants to go there or if it matters to a patient. If I see a patient make references to God a lot, or maybe making reference to the Bible a lot, I can go there so I can stay with them, and meet them where they are. But ideally, on a good day, I really don't. But that said, my foundation is still Bible based. My foundation of love is Bible based. My foundation of impact is Bible based. I pray for all my patients, of course, on my own. They don't
Right,
know
right,
it,
right.
And I also pray for my decisions every day. Like, God, help me to make the best decisions, because on my job, it's about decisions every single day. I make decisions on medications that is best for my patients. I make decisions on the therapy style that I feel is best for my patients. And I also always pray, I anoint my mouth, that every word I speak, though I don't mention Jesus, I pray it provides healing for people. That even my looks, I smile a lot. My looks, my smile, my touch, I always give all my patients fist bumps, except you don't want it, every day when I see them. Because, my prayer is with my looks, with my touch, with my words. I want them to feel that someone cares for them, even without mentioning Jesus at all. And I do really know, I get feedback from them, like they really know I'm genuinely concerned and I want the best for them. So I think while the foundation is, for me, Christian and is love and is rooted in service, I don't necessarily mention like Christianity or faith all the time when I talk to people. But I believe strongly that directly or indirectly, 360 degree, my life is about built on that foundation. And I really look forward to lives being touched, whether I mention Jesus or I don't, every day.
That's awesome. Yeah, I love that answer. So for a man who's listening, who loves Jesus, but feels ashamed of his anxiety, depression, scared to open up and be vulnerable, what would you say to him right now?
I would say there is no need for shame. Shame is not the best word to use for ourselves. There's no need to really be ashamed. We all go through struggles and we all go through pains. And depending on where we are, either in our faith journey or in our life journey and everything, we all respond to it differently. But no matter what you're going through, one of the things I say about adapt and advance in my book is, when you have anxiety, you have depression, understand that those are things that are difficult and challenging to go through, but interpret them as preparation for something bigger, not necessarily in your life to destroy you. So it's okay to have anxiety. it's okay to have depression. The first step is understand that these things are real in my life right now. We don't have to shy away from anything that is present. If you have anxiety in your life, understand this is real, it's there. If you have depression in your life, understand this is real, it is there. For those who struggle with substances, maybe overuse of alcohol or whatever, understand that this thing is there and understand that we need help. The first step is understand this there, then to ask for help if you need it. There are a lot of professionals, whether faith-based or non-faith-based, that can help us. But the first step is recognize that this is a situation in my life that needs help. Then number two, call for help that you need it. One thing, and this is in psychiatry, we call that having a good insight and having, good judgments, meaning your insight means you understand there's a problem and you understand this problem needs help. For example, we talk to patients all the time who have thoughts of suicide. I work in inpatient psychiatry, and maybe more than half of my patients' population have one form of suicidal thoughts at one level or the other. So one thing that tells me a patient has good insight is he understands this is there, and he understands when to ask for help. So we don't allow those things. Don't pretend it's not there. That's not good insight.
Right,
Good
right.
insight is I appreciate it's there, and then I know when to ask for help. I know who I can call for help. For example, if you lead the men, they should feel comfortable if they have your phone number calling you when they feel,
Right.
This is a little bit too much for me. They should have family members that they trust, that they can call and inform. They should have friends that they trust and they can call and inform. If they have a therapist who is a professional who allows them to call or send text messages, they should have know when to call and know when to use that resource for them. And, for those who struggle to the point of having thoughts of suicide or life is not worth living, you should know when to call 911. You should know the point when this is not a friend matter now. This is not, maybe a family matter, or it could be if those ones can help you quickly.
Yeah.
This might be like elevated to the point of calling 911 or going to the nearest emergency room to me. So what I would say to the men who are struggling is good insight is recognize it's there to know who to call for help and when to call, depending on the kind of people that are close in your life to call for help. It's not weakness to call for help, which I think most men might struggle with, because at times we just feel we are men, we should be able to undo things and we don't need to call for so much of help.
Right.
That is not always the case. No matter what we're going through, we can call for help and there's help somewhere for us.
Yeah. It actually takes courage.
Yes.
And, courage is a strength. It takes courage to step up and say, hey, I'm struggling. And when you were talking about insight, the self-development space calls it self-awareness. Mm-hmm. I call it knowing yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And how you truly know yourself is when you connect to God, when you're praying to God. I was this person. I always stayed by myself. I was very introverted. I didn't have a lot of people around me, and I liked it that way. But that was actually a deception that the devil told me that you're better off alone. And, when I started changing my lifestyle, that's when God started leading me to some more mentors. I started talking to guys who were older than me, who had been in the faith a while. And I actually came to one brother and I'm like, hey man, I'm struggling. I don't know what to do next. I had gone through Proverbs. It was probably like 3 months in a row. I was reading Proverbs every month.
Wow.
And I kept reading, I think it's 37:17 as iron. No, it's not 37 because there's only 31 chapters. Whatever it is, it might be 27:17. As iron sharpens iron, one man
Mm.
sharpens another.
Mm-hmm.
That's how that works.
Mm.
And you were talking about the insight and the self-awareness. When it comes to other people, I would say if you see a man that is struggling and you can tell that he doesn't want to step up and be vulnerable, take him off to the side, send him a text and say, hey, I'd like to have a coffee with you, and tell him, like, I can see that you're struggling. Speak to me, speak to someone else, or seek professional help. And then as you're talking to that person, if you see that they need more than just your help and your insight and your advice, encourage them to see someone like you.
And that's really the way to go. I remember one of the books that I referenced in Adapt and Advance was someone who struggled with depression so much. Like one of the things that got him through were like some of the things you talked about, like behavioral activation, getting out in the sun, as simple as that is, going to classes, as simple as that is. Then the person sharing was a student, and just mixing up with people, talking to people. Some of the things we take for granted that we really don't even know what they are doing for us might actually be protecting us or preventing us from entering into a deep depression.
Right.
One of the things that the enemy does for people to get them into a corner of maybe depression or something that is more difficult is, when you don't have people around you, that are close to you that you can reach out to quickly, it's just so easy and to fall into depression and into a very difficult one. When you think you have no one, but relationship are built, and there's something we all need to do to build that relationship. It doesn't just happen by accident. So if you're going to have good people in your life, you've got to be good people for others. So you can't just
Right.
stay and say, I have no good people in my life. Then go out and be good people to others. And in fact, in Under Meaning Making, which is the first in Under Map Lamp, in my book, one of the things I talked about is using Viktor Frankl. I don't know if you heard about him. He's a psychiatrist who wrote the book
Yeah, he was the
Man
one who
Search
was
for
in
Meaning.
prison.
Yes, in
Yes.
one of those in the
He was in
concentration
the
camps.
Jewish. Yeah. Yep.
Yes. So he wrote the book Man Search for Meaning, and he gave three main ways where people can make meaning from difficult situation. And number one is, going out to help others. And he said, even in the Jewish concentration camp, that those who went out to help others, even in the midst of their suffering and their pain, they seems to live a better life. He said in his own head, like the book he eventually published after he wrote the entire book in his head, like without a pen or book, like he was writing it. And he kept telling himself that when I get through this and I'm out, I'm going to publish this book. So, he said even in the middle of everything, those who saw it as a mission to help other people tended to have better outcomes, because even in the midst of the pain and the suffering, they were still thinking about others, encouraging others. It could just be words of encouragement. It's going to be over. It's going to be okay. It's going to be well. Few times they're able to encourage, put smile on people's faces, even in the middle of the mystery and the suffering. So I reference that because at times the reason men really don't have friends at times is because we feel, there are just no good people there. Whereas God is waiting on us to be the good people for others. And in the process, we get, to also have good people come into our lives.
Yeah. I would say you're a good example of that, because you
I
had
try.
this adversity early in your life. And I don't know if you had it when you were younger, but you obviously have this passion to help people now. And
Oh,
you've become a successful person because of it, So
it's
I
always
appreciate that.
Thank you so much for saying it. It's always been there. Even as a teenager, I remember as early as, early college days, I've always wanted to use my story to be a blessing to people. Medical school days, I remember in my church, my early 20s, I was a leader of a small group of like 20 people where I shared my stories. In my early 20s, I was, having like a monthly seminar for young people where I told people, no matter what you are going through, you can get through this. God can help you. Don't let whatever happened to you. All those things that worked for me. I've been saying all of this since that time to let people know that no matter what you are going through, you don't have to let this define you in a negative way. And I'm grateful to God that those things have worked for. That's the way I live my life.
Amen. Do you think that was a driver for you to become so successful?
Oh, of course, of course, of course. Even in the family, everywhere, I strive to be a blessing. That's just me. Anywhere I find myself, I go above and beyond to help other people achieve their dreams. To help of course, I can't do everything, but the little I can do, I always try my best to make sure that my story is shared directly or indirectly to encourage people to keep moving on, to keep going forward, and understand that whatever you're going through right now has not come. Interpret your pain as preparation. It has not come to pause or to stop you from moving forward. And that's all I am. And that's again the principle of adapt and advance, making meaning. It's about focusing on the big picture. Even now, of course, there are newer challenges that has nothing to do with my parents' loss. But no matter what, I always focus on the big picture. And, my mission statement is to fulfill God's purpose and be the best version of myself by moving from one level of success and value to a greater level of success and value. And on my journey to positively influence everyone on my path. So every morning I say this to myself and I remind myself I want to be a blessing to others. I want to go to bed empty every night, meaning when I go to bed at night, I've done the best I can to help the people in my world, whether at work, in the family, friends. And that's the way I live my life every single day. And also, at the end of the day, ultimately, one of the books of Miles Monroe I read some years back was like the graveyard is the richest place on earth because a lot of people go to the grave without fulfilling their full potential. So I don't want that to happen to me. I want to go to my grave in my old age completely empty, meaning I have lived the best life I can to be a blessing to as many as God has called me to be. So that's the way I encourage people to live. Pour out the best of you every day as much as God will give you the strength and the opportunity to.
Man, that's awesome. I'm blessed and encouraged just to have this conversation with you. So
Thank
I can
you,
tell
sir.
you when you go to bed tonight, you've emptied yourself because you poured it out. There's a question I ask every man that comes on the podcast. In 1 Samuel 22, David, after he slew Goliath, he fled to the cave of Adullam because Saul was trying to kill him. While David was in that cave, men of the kingdom came to him that were discouraged, discontented, and I always forget the dissatisfied, whatever, discouraged, dissatisfied. While they were there, they were under David's leadership in the cave. While they saw David had the opportunity to even take out Saul, but David's integrity wouldn't let him do that. Later, while these men were following him, David became king of Judah and then finally king of Israel. They became David's mighty men. Modern day, you got a group of men in front of you who are disgruntled, disheartened, and discouraged. Those are the three words. What would you say to them?
I would say no matter what life has thrown at you and no matter how discouraged or disgruntled or how difficult life is for you, every life has a purpose. Every life has a purpose, no matter what it is. And in that purpose lies our destiny. So everyone has a purpose, if we check our fingerprints, it's different for every single person on earth. So there's something in you God has placed there to bless your world, either alone or together with other people. So there's a role for everyone. So understand that no matter what it is, your life, no matter what your life looks like, there's a purpose for it. In the case of David, they were able to work together with him to help him. There's so much one person can do. And if you look at every very successful ministry all over the world, it's not about the person at the top alone. It's a little bit of every person joining hands together to make it work. So don't ever think that tiny contribution that it looks like you're making does not matter. It does matter, because everything adds up at the end of the day. Some are called maybe to be leaders of 10. Some are called to be leaders of 100. Some are called to be leaders of 1,000. Some maybe even millions. Some maybe just 2. But there's something in you which, if you use very well, the world will be blessed by it. Amen. It might just be just those 2 people, or 5, or 10, or 20, whatever the number is that God gives you the opportunity. And don't look down on your own gifts. Don't look down on the things that God has placed inside of you. Use it well. Be the best version of yourself. In my book, I talk about mission statements everybody should have. Be the best version of yourself with what God has placed inside of you. And there's really no room to envy anybody. Everybody has his own. If you remember, Jesus was saying, he said, when talking about the parable of the gifts, to one he gave 1, one he gave 2, one he gave 5. The person who gave 2, I think, made 2 more. The person who had 5 made 5 more. The person who had 1, he hit his own. And, we all knew what happened to him. So what this is telling us is we are not equally gifted, and we will never be.
Right.
But with what you have,
exactly,
make sure you bless your world to the maximum ability that God has placed inside of you, and make your own contribution. And no need to envy anybody. No. Whether somebody is preaching to millions or you are preaching to 1, the most important thing is fulfill your purpose and do it with all joy, with everything inside of you, with every energy inside of you. So I speak to every of such persons that please understand that you are part of the big picture of God. And no matter what level God wants you to operate, do it with all your heart, and the world will be blessed by what you have.
Amen. Well, you definitely poured it all out right there. that was awesome.
Yeah.
Something that came to my head, I was going back and forth before starting the podcast because I didn't want to do it. I was on a run and I was praying during my run. These words came to my head. The people that God has called you to reach are waiting for you to figure it out. After I heard that, I worked harder to get my podcast started. And you were saying, if you're called to reach 2 or millions, you have a purpose. I love that.
The number doesn't matter. What matters is whatever God has called you to do it with all your heart, do it with all your mind. If God wants you to reach millions, praise God. If He wants you to reach just 1 or 2, do it like you are reaching the millions. Putting your best into it, and lives will be transformed. So this understanding frees us from pressure, and it frees us from wanting to be somebody else, because there's a reason God kept that gift in you for the people for whom He has kept it. And it also helps us to be grateful to God for what we have. And yeah.
Amen. Awesome. Well, where can people connect with you? Where can they find your book?
So my book, I always like to show the picture. If you check it it's on Amazon, you see it's green, Adapt and Advance. If you type Adapt and Advance on Amazon, you see it. And we have all versions available. There is the Audible. I love listening to books. I listen to one every week. And for those who like Audible, we have the Audible version. For those who like to read on their phones or devices, we have the ebook copy, also on Amazon. And then we have the hard copy for those who prefer to get the book themselves. So Amazon is the best place to find the book. We type in Adapt and Advance. Almost always it brings it up. So even without my name, but if you want, you can put Babatunde or Oluwole together with it. But I'm sure you will see the green book with a jumping man from one place to another.
And can they get it from your website as well? Will the website link you to Amazon? Okay.
Yes, website can link people to Amazon, but I don't have it directly on the website right now. It's mainly on Amazon for now. And I also have YouTube channels. My first name, last name, 1870, Oluwole Babatunde, 1870. And I also have a Facebook, first name, last name, Oluwole Babatunde. And there's an email in the book. People can reach me by email in the book for now. I think those are the big places we can easily reach.
And if people are in South Carolina and they want to reach out to you for mental health, can they do that as well?
Definitely, if they send me an email, I can share with them how best they can reach me if they really want to.
Awesome. I'll have all that in the show notes. Maybe
Thank
not
you
the
so
Facebook
much.
because I don't have Facebook, but if I can get the link, I will.
Okay, no worries. Yeah, I was off Facebook for years too. I just came back not long ago. I think I was off people for like 4 years or 5 years, just wanting to concentrate on what I was. It can be very distracting.
Yeah,
even now, even though that I post there, like every day I post a little bit of the book. Yeah, but it takes a lot of discipline not to get carried away with too many stories that you have no business.
Doom scrolling, yes.
Yeah.
All right. Brother, thank you for coming on. I really appreciate it.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. It's really, really beautiful. And thanks for having me, Mark.
If you write another book or you have something you want to share, let me know and I'll have you on again.
I'm actually working on the other one, which it's focusing mainly on mental health. I'm hopeful to be published by the end of the year. So I'll reach out back when that time comes. Yeah.
Awesome. All right. God bless you.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it.